My brand of Jiu Jitsu, if you will, is painless, precise, and playful. I don't believe a tap is a tap, at least not in the room. If we're in a competition, if we're in a fight, if it's out in the streets with a Z, yes, fuck them up, right? But we need to train. To get better, we need to train. We need to train a lot. And if we're constantly hurting ourselves and we're constantly doing things just to get a tap to feel good about ourselves, well, that seems like a poor plan. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay, there's like probably 25% of you that do, but that's okay. Okay. The way that I like to teach is painless, precise, and playful. Okay. When it comes to joint locks, you asked a great question earlier. How the fuck do you do that painless? Right? The idea is control. Okay. I don't, whether we're dealing with heel hooks, arm bars, straight ankles, anything that's a joint, I want to have so much control that they don't get spazzy and turn the wrong way and then obliterate their knee. Or they don't do something wrong and all of a sudden their ankles pop. Right? So we want to have control before we start any finishing mechanics. And if our finishing mechanics are strong, we have control. So let's understand the finishing mechanics. So far, so good? Awesome. The back row, still so far, so good? Yeah? Awesome. Okay. John has been nice enough to, he's going to be the rookie. He's been the rookie for quite a few times. Yeah. Mostly strangles, but this is the first time we're getting into the weight. Okay, so we're going to get into mechanics in a second. Well, yes, later on I'll explain why I call it the guillotine of the leg. Okay, but we're going to get into mechanics. Alan, you have shorts on. Can I borrow you for a second?
Alan's the problem, King?
No.
Yeah. This is Alan.
Okay, so Alan is going to sit with his knees just like this. You're going to keep it like that the whole time. You can plant back if you want, whatever the case may be. Perfect. Keep your legs like that. John is going to put his leg right there. Yeah. You need 5 people to do it. This is tag team Jiu Jitsu is a new thing. Okay. Let's see. Can I use you, Jimmy? Perfect. Well, we're going to see something. Right? In a straight ankle lock, what are we attacking? Oh, Jesus, I lost you already. The neck. The wrist, you guys are all wrong, actually. We're attacking the ankle, right? And the joint here and everything around it. Okay. So this likes to articulate this way, like this is normal, right? But there's a point that happens that, okay, now we're bringing something to tension, and past this tension point, this is your body, tension is your body saying, whoa. Right? Once we get to this point, and we go past that, then it starts to be painful, and that's a good thing, because past that is a break, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have Yanni push on this foot. Alan's going to keep everything in tight here. Push on this foot and see what happens. So if he pushes, what's happening to the knee? Why? Trying to relieve. That makes total sense, and everybody's body would do this. Okay? So now, we're going to do the same thing, and I'm going to do this. Keep applying. Oh, it's funny, I could feel the tension in the knee starting. Okay. This is what we're trying to do to the ankle. Not with 17 people, but with ourselves. Okay? All we're trying to do is we're trying to control the joint above. For those of you taking notes, this is one of the biggest things that you'll get from this class. I'm not going to try to say one big thing. So much information, right? The one big thing, try to control the joint above. Whatever you happen to be attacking, try to control that joint above. Makes sense on the arms, makes sense on the legs, anywhere you're at. Okay? So in this class, we're going to really talk about controlling the joint above, which happens to be the knee. Okay? So, I don't think we need to drill that. That was just an exercise to understand that what we're doing. Why do I call this the guillotine of the leg? In a guillotine, we're putting something underneath the jaw, and then we're compressing down, making that kink in the hose. In this, we're doing the same thing. We're putting something underneath there, and then we're compressing down. Instead of kicking a hose for blood to the brain, we're bringing that to tension, and then if need be, pain, and then break. Okay. So let's get into our first position. Rotate here so I can. Perfect. Thank you. So does everybody, by a show of hands, does everybody know what like a basic Ashi position? Yes, if you do, yes, please. Okay. I'm not going to go over it, but I can go. Charles is a great class on this. The very, very basic ankle, knee, sliding our hips, heel and hip, cover. Okay. I'm not going to go into this is just basic stuff here. I'm not going to go into it. We're going to do that, just catching here. Okay. Notice I haven't worried about where I catch. Okay. We're going to get into that position. I jumped. This is my, whatever. I went over it with him and then I realized I just skipped a step. The first thing that we're going to drill is this. Most of us, just like guillotines, most of us get in here and then we're like, extended, right? Like we might try to control or we might try to do a bunch of this stuff, but we're extending, okay? So let's just see. Let's see what happens. See if I can get a tap like this. I don't know, maybe I can. That's actually pretty tough. I tried that. Okay. I'll stay on that same position. If I control the knee, I think we see what was going on there, right? So just like a guillotine, we don't want to extend. We want to control and compress. Okay. So we're going to get into our Ashi position. The most important thing that I find here to control this joint above is our hips. So when I slide in here, I'm bringing that hip to tension. I'm sorry, that knee to tension. Right? So if I'm here, this is lazy. Okay? He can still rotate his knee. He can still move. Okay? Try that same movement there. Very difficult. Okay? So we're going to get into that position with our hips against the knee. Our arm is going to try to catch at the joint. Okay? For now, it doesn't matter because I'm going to talk about that in a second. But we're going to try to catch at the joint. Our elbow, guess where it's going to go?
To the neighbors.
Yeah, it's going to go to the neighbors. The elbow is going to come back home, just like in a guillotine. Okay? So I'm catching, bringing it back home. My hips are getting into it. And be careful at this point because there's going to be, perfect. Be careful for the balls. And be careful for the ankle, because this is a dangerous position. Okay? So let's get into this position. You can do it both sides you want. You can do it one side you want. I don't care. But the two things that you should be looking for, hips into this knee, and then bringing that elbow back to your body. All right, can we do that? All right, let's try it. 1, 2, 3.
Do you want me to not be able to move this knee? Yes.
We have a cadence trying to get information, and a lot of 70% of people are getting their hips in, but 30% is a pretty big chunk. So I'm just going to reiterate real quick. When I'm into this position, you can see that there's a space here, right? I do not want that space, okay? So I'm almost sliding like I was sliding into home base, right? I'm sliding my hips. Now there's no space. My hip is on his knee, okay? This is the kind of connection that I would like in an ideal world, okay? Let me see. Middle of the fucking thing, you're just trying to throw me off. All right. So just keep that in the back of your mind for those that you get trouble. Okay? So we're going to slide into this. We're just going to be underneath here. Okay? Hip in, and automatically kick him in the balls. Automatically, when I say elbow back home, is my elbow really back home currently? No, I'm sitting on the mat, right? I'm talking to you. I'm being a nice partner currently. This is already tight. I know it's tight, but it's not nearly as tight as it's going to be. Okay? So when I'm going to plant here, because I don't want to hurt him, I'm going to plant here. I'm going to compress and take that weight off my elbow and put it onto my shoulder. Okay? Now, once we're here, this is already uncomfortable. You can tell by his hand positioning. This is already uncomfortable. Okay. I'm not going to do, I'm going to try to release just a little bit because I don't want, I'm not doing this. Half of you are going to do this even though I just said it. So I'm going to try it one more time. I am not going to do this. I'm not extending my back. The second thing, one big thing that you can get from this is finish joint locks with your body. Attach to your body and then finish with your body. Okay? So, again, whoop, nice and tight. That sucks. You signed up for this, bro. Bringing that elbow back home. I'm being nice. Look, I'm being nice. I could just go to my shoulder. That sucks. Okay? So I'm going to my shoulder. Look at what happened to his knee. Right? Now, instead of going back, like we've been taught, I'm going to take my hips and drive in. Keeping my elbow back home, so it's attached to my body. Look, I'm not even worrying about this. Attached to my body, and I'm going to drive my hips in. That's right, I'm humping his leg. I meant to say that funny, but yes. I love when I make a joke and everybody's like, my girlfriend Megan would love that. Okay, so we're in this position, no space. If there's space and I go for this, well, that's a problem. Okay. No space. Elbow back home. Get to that shoulder slowly. You get a lot of taps here. Hip, hump. Towards the leg. Easy peasy. How many times did I say, use strength, squeeze? 6.
Like 8 times.
Yeah. I haven't said it. Total control. I control the joint above with my hips. I'm bringing that elbow back home, so I'm controlling the joint I'm attacking. Okay. There's nowhere for him to go at that point. I'm continuously hipping in, and that's my braking mechanic. So I'm attaching and then using a strong hip instead of my arm versus his leg. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Where are you putting your hand on his leg to get this motion?
So 12 years ago, more, I was at Henry Aiken's seminar, and fucking guy, he we were here, and we were sitting there and we're cranking, whatever. He's like, you guys, you could come up here, and if you do everything right, yeah. And it took me like 10 years to figure out what the fuck he was talking about. He did it to me, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? To break, I'm putting my arm under here, just like we talked about in the beginning, and breaking over in an ideal situation, okay? For the drilling purposes, it's almost better that we don't get there. For our preciseness, we want to be there. This is where you're going to break it, okay? Unless, whatever, I'm not going to get into a rabbit hole. This is where we're going to break it, so this is where I'd like to be. Yeah. Just like a guillotine, I'm up as much as I can, closing that space, closing everything down. Okay. All right, let's give that a shot. 1, 2, 3. The majority of questions, so we had long legs versus short legs. That was a very good question. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But the majority of questions or challenges that people were having is they're just coming in here and they're just like this. Okay. There's no bend in his knee. Okay. There's no pressure on his knee. I'm not controlling this joint. Okay. He can flop around. He can move. He can stand up. He can do all sorts of different stuff. He can extract this. There's a lot of different things. He can put a boot on. Okay. There's a lot of different things that he can do from here. Okay. If I get my hip in, sorry, dude. If I get my hip in, you see how that bent, right? Now he can't extract. He doesn't have the same motion. And John, how much easier or harder is it to put the boot on? To put the boot on, it needs to be straight. Nothing there. I'll just keep showing.
Time and place, bud.
Okay, yeah, perfect. If I put a bend in his knee, where does that boot go? Gone. Okay, gone. So this is a nice way to kill that. Instead of trying to fight this for strong people or long legs, I put a bend in there. Then he can't activate his quad to bring everything up. And it's much easier to break that. Okay. Majority of challenges were that hip, which is going to make what I was about to teach significantly more difficult. Okay? But that's okay. We're going to continue on. There's different levels of people in this. If you don't get anything from this class, other than control that joint above, right, whenever you're going for a joint lock, that's A, number one. And then secondarily, for safety reasons, try to be as precise in control before you apply any sort of breaking. Okay? So those are the two things. Cool. Now we're going to go on, and we're going to get a little bit more difficult. All right. So this simple Ashi position. One is a common defense. Let's see if we get the first one. Yeah, perfect. Yep. He did it. He did it for me. So one of the first defenses. Are we good with the angle? Yeah, perfect. One of the first defenses that you learn is pop this down, and then what? You just sit on it, right? Oh, bastard. And now I can't ankle lock. Or can I? So against better people, I'm almost always trying to get their knee to the mat. I'm trying to reverse them, I guess. I'm trying to get him to roll. So I bait this. So we're in this position. Great. I did a bad job. I mean, it's hard for him to do this if my hips are where they're supposed to be. But let's just say he does it. And he sits on that. Okay. You see the space? And it might be hard for those. Now there's space here. That means I can't finish this. Not in the way, at least. I mean, if he's, if I'm 250 pounds, maybe I can crank on it. That's not how I like to do jiu-jitsu. In this case, it's another opportunity for me to stripper pull his knee into the mat. Okay? So as he's going that way, I'm like, you know what? I would like him to go that way. So as he brings his weight onto here and tries to clear, I'm following and watch my hips. Again, a connection. So I went for this, boom. He immediately pushes that down. I'm immediately following, trapping. My weight is going down into that knee and pinning it on the mat. Where is my elbow, the one that's strangling the ankle?
Oh, behind you.
Going back home. Whoever said home, 2 points. Okay? I'm bringing it back home. I didn't even get to the next part. Okay? Weight down so that knee gets trapped. Bring that elbow back home. Okay? If I bring that home and I'm still not getting a tap, my hips are driving in, and I'm using this helper hand to start to push. Push, 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 push. Okay? Right now, by show of hands, who is getting what I'm saying? Yeah, cool. That's much better than I thought. Okay, so that's good. Because of time, I'm gonna scale back. There's a really big question if the like long legs with short legs, etc. Right? Can we get somebody who's got like super long legs? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then can we get like somebody that's like super not long legs? Francesco, sure. Actually, Rob, I'm going to use
You got tinier legs.
yeah.
This is my thing.
Well, the thing, yeah. There's twofold. Quite honestly, I would have had to probably go through a little bit more to get into the position that I will. Okay, so please go into that position that I was just in. So just an ashi with the hips right behind.
So he's getting
The first one that we did, yeah. Can we switch, rotate, if you want to do it to that side, rotate so the camera can see. Okay. So now, if you look at, really get your hips in there if you can. Yeah, perfect. If we look at the length of his shin versus the length of his body, this can be sometimes a problem. Okay? So like, we want to, if we're being very precise, like I said, we want to be here, right? Because that's where the joint is. However, because of this length, it may, if he's trying to get his hips in, then it's not too bad here, but perhaps his foot would stick out. Is that making sense to everybody? Sometimes, because of your body and their body, their hips can, or their legs going to stick out a little bit. Okay? Come back for a second. Now, just sit on the side for a second if you don't mind. I'm going to use your leg. Okay. All right. So, either way, I need to control the joint above, right? That's the big thing that we're taking from today. Okay. So either way I need to do that. Is the only way for me to do that with a hip? I don't think so. Okay. So there's, against long-legged people, what happens if I happen to bring the shin, so I was going into that option position, right? What happens if I happen to bring the shin here and then sit into this position? I don't know. Maybe that could work. Okay. What happens if I bring it here? Okay, and start to turn out. I don't know, I guess that could work. Okay. So with shorter people, what I like to do, or what I like to suggest, is if his leg, if you're trying to get in here and he's got this happening, right, which does happen quite frequently, we're nowhere near the joint, then we need to extend here, then our hips aren't in the right position, this kind of screws everything up. Okay. Instead of doing that, well, let's get back to the joint and then fill that gap somewhere else. Right? I'm doing the same thing. I'm filling that, I'm controlling this joint, okay? But just in a different way. Is that making sense to everybody? So I'd like to play with that, and then we're going to bring it back in for what I've been working on, kind of the most difficult. Yeah.
When you're hooking with your hip side foot, are you stepping on the hip with your opposite foot?
Everything depends. So like sometimes I'll come in here and try to force a rotation.
Yeah.
And kind of finish that way. I mean, it really depends on what they do. But for this particular part, I just want to put it in our heads that we want to control this joint for attacking this one, and there's different ways of doing it. And then figure it out for your body. Right? Because every body is different. I'm going to just pretend we're in one. Okay? Let's try that. 1, 2, 3. You need a method to even understand or open the gate to a principle. Once you have even a single method, you can go into the gated community that is a principle and start playing with it. The reason that I didn't give a specific way of doing something in that particular segment is because every body is different. And you need to figure it out for you. It would take a year, like, okay, you know, your legs are, you know, whatever length, and this person's legs, I mean, it's a constant thing. So the beginning part of this is offering some methods. But now we're going to enter in, or what we did there, is principles. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So we're going to get into what I've been working on recently. We're going to do that real quick, and then show another kind of fun one, and then picture time, and get ready for riches. Okay? So, depending on where I'm setting this up, almost always I'm kind of just fucking with this. Okay, I'm just playing with this, and it doesn't take much energy at all. I'm just closing my elbow, just waiting. Okay. Depending on who I'm rolling with, and depending on how hard I'm rolling with, I might start getting my hips engaged. I might start coming up. But we're not going to deal with that right now. Okay. We're just going to kind of play with this. So I have this bite, right, with my lap. I can come around. This is all good. Instead of going into that ashi position, I'm going to try to get him to go this way. And again, depending on who I'm rolling with, but almost always, if they're good, I'm trying to get to a belly down position. Okay? So it's that. So in this case, I might have come this way, kind of played. You guys can't see. Controlling the second leg. Okay? Don't need to squeeze, just playing. This side is coming over. Okay? And obviously you can go into saddle, we have heel hooks here, and etc. Right? But I'm bringing this out. A lot of times I have to kick back just a little bit. Okay, and there's attacks for him too, which Mike Courier was nice enough to do to me first day rolling. My hips are going to do the same thing that they did over here, this time, this way. See what I'm saying? So my hips, I'm trying to get to that belly down position, and my hips are driving down, and I'm trying to catch him like this. That secondary hand controlling the leg, I'm helping him turn. That's what I want him to do. Okay? And then I'm finishing from that belly down position. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, what time are we at here?
56.
56? Okay. So there's that. So that's even more complicated because of how your hips land, and that's going to be a challenge. Cool. Okay, I'm here all week. If it's a quick question, please ask it. If it's a detailed question, I do private lessons here as well. Additionally, a fun one for those of you that have short legs, okay? Since we're at 56. So when we're playing with this, maybe I'm trying to fill gaps, 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 right? I'm trying to control that knee. But that's not even the only way to control the knee. This is one way to control the knee, but also you can control the knee this way. I didn't say this one. I apologize in advance. If you have dexterous either hips, knees, I thought it was knees, but maybe it's my hips, right? You can bring it over. So I'm going to do this extremely slow. Yeah. So we're in that same position, okay? Bring it over. Let's just add a little weight. Okay, you see how that straightens it out? Well, that is going to control the knee as well. Okay? This turns into almost a knee bar. For those of us, like I'm longer, so I don't go for this very often. It's not like my jam, just because of my body, right? I like other things. I like to rotate. But that's okay. If you have shorter legs, this is awful. Okay? So you push down, making his knee go like this. Okay? But with the shin. Okay? And then, what's that? You don't mind? Over. And then whatever way he decides to rotate. Look at his hand. Remember you being a smartass earlier? Okay? So for those of you that are shorter, that's a real fun option. Okay? Lots of information. Sorry I wasn't more concise on the time. I'm going to end the way that we started. With gratitude and thankfulness, let's take a second to appreciate. Look at all these people around that do Jiu Jitsu. Yeah. I have nothing but gratitude that I'm able to come here and share my Jiu Jitsu. Is it right? It might not be right for you. Is it wrong? I don't know. But it's my Jiu Jitsu, and I'm sharing it with all of you, and I couldn't be more grateful. So, thank you.